Hi there, Valerie Shodine here, and welcome to Plan With Me March 2021, where I combine the comforts of home with art journaling and planning in my planner journal. And the first thing is the March cover page. Then there's the March calendar, which shows the entire month, and it's where I put the events of the month. After that is the Dutch door page. And this is covered in the Plan With Me Premium. You can find out more on my website at valerieshodine.com. My gratitude page is one of my most important pages to keep me focused, upbeat, and positive, and of course, thankful. Then I have my workflow pages. I have them more blank this month because I'm going through what I should do when, so I've left space for that but still decorated the pages. Then there's the weekly planner pages. So I'm trying a new layout each month for the past 3 months and seeing what works best for me. I go over how to make these pages in this video. Then there's a few blank pages that I've decorated for journaling. So let's get started with the cover page. Okay, I'm starting with the cover here. This is 140-pound hot press watercolor paper. It's Fabriano Artistico, and I'm just doing a slight little wash for each wing, as you see here, tinted with the teal, and then I go in with the darker blue. Doesn't really matter which one. And notice how I'm just putting the paint on the very tip of the brush when I go in to make it darker, and because it's wet, it bleeds out there. That's the beauty of watercolor. I decided to paint the butterflies first because I want them to pop and not get lost in the background color. I thought of putting masking fluid on, but to be honest, I use it very sparingly because so many times I've had it pull up the paper when I pull up the masking fluid. Now I'm going in with a wash on the table where the cup is setting with some Quinacridone Gold. I'm kind of keeping it wet and squishy there because I want it to be subtle and to fade out towards the edges. So I think this will work fine, and as long as I keep my wash pretty light and then paint around with this clear water around the cup and the butterflies. I do want it to bleed up a little bit, as you see where that Quinacridone Gold on the bottom meets the water. So I'm using the teal, it's very light, as my base color, and then I'll go in with a bit darker blue, probably the Thalo Blue, and add some Indigo and Payne's Gray where I want it to be shadowed. One thing I really like to do is spatter. So I dip an old cleaned toothbrush in water and then in some paint with water and squish it around on the palette, as you see to the right here, and spatter it using my thumb across the bristles. This also works to cover up any smudges that I may have on my artwork. I put a little spritz of salt and you see how it's soaking up some of the pigment right in there. And while that's drying, it's almost dry now, I'm going in with a paintbrush and doing some detail work on the butterfly with some gold. You can see how important it is to have a paintbrush that comes to a good point. If you're wondering what I'm using, the supplies are listed below. And I'm spritzing my metallic watercolors with water to reactivate them. And this silvery white is so perfect for steam. It just looks really shimmery. In fact, I'm using it throughout this month's artwork for on the wings because they just look shimmery and luminous and way better in person than you see here on the page. But you can kind of see it, I guess, here as well. I use the Indigo or Payne's Gray to make shadows. It's a nice contrast with the gold tabletop there, I think, and also just in general, that's what I use for shadows, especially if I want them to be cool. Now you'll notice I'm putting some white watercolor in here. I don't use white that often, and it dries much lighter than it goes on. But I wanted that kind of luminosity of a sunrise, and so I'm putting that gold in there and then fading to the white that's close to the cup. Notice too that I do use a paper towel. I blot quite a bit. I don't think I could paint without one. I found that sometimes it's easier to make the shadows first and then to put the colors that I'm going to use on top of the shadows. And reminding myself that watercolor does dry lighter than it goes on. Once dry, it's easy to go over with pen like this. And so I'm doing my double line here too to make it a little bit sketchy, and I think it could use some more contrast, some more darks, and so I am going over some of these lines with my black pen and doing a very sketchy outline on the butterflies. With all the curves, I thought it was good to do kind of a checkerboard pattern on the cup. And I'm thinking that I'm going to put another pattern in there too. One of my favorites is the spiral. And the spiral is also symbolic of the journey of life and our own personal journey. So it seems fitting for my rewords for this month, March, which are reimagine and rebirth. Of course, a butterfly is a symbol of rebirth, a personal renaissance, so to speak. So I'm just filling this in with spirals, and honestly, it's so fun and simple just to do it this way. A little doodle goes a long way. I decided to use a copper metallic pen instead of gold, or I could use both, but I just like the kind of more towards brown that the copper has with the Quinacridone Gold. I think I kind of overdid the lines, so I'm going over with some white. Not sure if that helps or not, but we'll see. Now I am putting washi tape on the edge of my pages here that border my cover page and the calendar pages. Instead of tabs this year, my gold washi tape will mark the separations from month to month, and it gives me a great place to put my cover page, as you saw, right up against the washi tape. So it's like a smooth landing, a smooth sailing the whole way across the page. Love it. Now I'm going to print out my cover and put it on the cover page. Okay, I've printed out my cover for the month with the text. I'm going to use the Reimagine and cut it out and use the double-sided tape to glue it down. So I've measured, it's 5 1/4 from here to the edge of the washi tape, and I've measured that here 5 1/4 and marked it. And this is not a straight line, but it's roughly even. And then the height is 8 3/16, which I've marked from the top down here, and I have printed this out as a full bleed, so it would be the right size. Okay, I'm going to get my cutting craft mat out here and just use my cork back ruler, cork side down so it doesn't slip, and then my X-Acto knife or craft knife here.
And I'm gonna fit it right up against the washi tape, which I love doing that. And then take it off, but okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to write here. I'll probably use a 3, which is my norm for writing, either a 2 or a 3. And I'll write my scripture here. And then I erase the pencil lines. If I want to put something else here throughout the month, I can. I know I have in months past, like here. So I might do that, but right now I'm just going to leave it plain and move on to the next page.
I'm doing the March calendar with this Script Sans Serif Planner Alphabet and Grid stencil I designed for Stencil Girl products. It comes in a 9x12 inch and is easily cut into 4 pieces so they fit in the back pocket of my journal here. It sure makes making the grid easy, and the grid size is 6 dots or 6 squares high and wide. Now I'm using the planner banner stencil for my monthly name like I've done in the past 2 months, and drawing around the inside of it, but not quite on the very end there, because I'm going to connect that into making a branch. Now I'm writing the month in using the stencil and filling it in with a pen. It's easy to make it not look like a stencil by connecting the lines with the pen, and also going around this banner stencil with a single line pulls it all together. This month, in between each stencil line here, I'm doing a spiral to be consistent. And there, it's done. And now for my branch. In the Plan With Me Premium, there's a devotional that's also visual and has ideas. I'm taking this cherry blossom or apple blossom branch and doing something similar on my page here with the 5 petals. Keeping the butterfly sketchy again, I'm going to go in with paint when I'm done with the pen. Okay, now for the bottom part, a nice cup of tea to go with this new month. I actually looked in my cupboard and have one similar to this. Snowdrops are popping up these days, and so I thought I would put a few of those in here as well. And of course, March wouldn't be the same without a clover. So I decided to write a prayer on the side this time. Okay, once I'm done here, I erase the whole thing, get all my pencil lines off, and see if it needs any touch-up. And sure enough, it does. Okay, there, done with the pen. Now on to paint. Once again, I'm spritzing my watercolors with water to reactivate them and to get my sponge ready and tested. And the first part is my banner. Now I'm using raw umber for this, which does seem a little bit dark, but there's something earthy about March, at least where I live, where there's a lot of rain. And so it's kind of like a soil color. And I actually like it like that. Of course, not the smudge I did, but it makes it very easy to then extend that brown banner into my branch. Now I'm going in with some light red or pink, which is mostly water. Okay, I'm going in with some sap green for some of these leaves with a little bit of green gold added to it to give that real spring-like green look. Now, as I'm doing the butterfly, I put a little too much water there. I think it's coming off of doing the butterflies on the watercolor paper, which takes a lot more water than this journal paper. Always good for me to keep that in mind. Now, I'm going around the edge with a bit of indigo, and it looks kind of gray and cloud-like, and that's why I'm doing it here, because where I live in March, there's a lot of rain. It might not be the case where you live, so just do whatever you want here. I don't often go around the whole edge of my page and calendar like this, but I just wanted to and decided at the last minute. So sometimes it's just kind of nice to go with the flow. I'm extending the green to the spirals I put in between the days. Going in with just a little bit of red and yellow for the interiors of the flowers. And then finishing it off with some tea and shadows. Of course, I am going to add my gold and silver, and it really makes it sparkle. This time I'm using copper for some of the lines in the butterfly that really go with the branches, I think, and the centers of the flowers here. I'm extending the copper around this banner here, and it just ties it all in. I'm just putting a copper dot in the middle of each one of these little in-between day spirals. And with my copper pen, I'm going in around the page with spirals as well. I don't know, I guess I think you can't have too many spirals. Now in white on the banner and copper. Okay. Now for the gratitude page. I'm starting the same way as I did the past few months with the I am grateful, done with a stencil, and I'm also using some butterfly reference. This is a butterfly identification chart I got at a butterfly garden, and I've also practiced in another journal my butterflies. I just wanted to let you know that in case you think that I might just wing it each time. No, I do practice on some paper first. Activating my paints again with the spritz of water and using a medium to medium larger round brush that comes to a good point. Notice I'm putting my point down first and kind of setting my brush down on my initial placement where the watercolor paint goes. And it really works out to just make either petals if you're doing flowers, leaves, or in this case, butterfly wings. didn't quite wait for it to dry enough on that top butterfly, so the edges got fuzzy. But I can always go back in when it's dry and kind of crisp up the edges a bit for the patterns. One thing you might notice, I skip around from butterfly to butterfly because I need to wait for parts of one butterfly to dry before I can put the next layer on. So it's kind of nice to have all these different little butterflies to work on the same page. Now with a smaller brush, I'm going in with some detailing. So I've been working from the larger brush down to a smaller fine brush as I go. Now I'm adding some movement by adding some stencils that go up and over on my page. I'm using the Circle Bubbles stencil by Stencil Girl Products, and I'm going light metallic with a few darker metallics on top. It really makes the page shimmer and the butterflies look as if they're flying. Okay, now I'm spattering the metallics on there and a little bit of teal. Now for the art workflow page. This is my main work, and I'm keeping my workflow pages a little blank this month because I'm working on my workflow and I need some blank space to kind of figure things out. So I'm going to make a nice base to work from and go back to my homemade organic circle stencils along with this Circle Bubbles stencil. Kind of makes a good base to work from and adds a lot of movement, and workflow is movement. Now here I'm painting a swallowtail butterfly. Now this has personal significance for me. For the past 2 years during the summer, I would go out every day and water. We don't have a sprinkler system here. And every day, a swallowtail butterfly would fly by. Swallowtails have been kind of my personal symbol throughout my life. I've always noticed them ever since I was a kid, and they seem to fly really close. So I've always had this affinity towards them. So this concept of being reborn, of being in a cocoon and having that mystery of the unknown on how does that larva turn into a butterfly, the swallowtail totally represents that to me personally. So this is my personal workflow page, and this is my personal butterfly page. So I'm going to put a little more time into this butterfly in particular. I am using black paint, but I could also use black ink for this. So if you want to do something similar and you don't have a paintbrush that comes to a point like this, you can always use a pen. Swallowtails have a little bit of red and a little bit of blue on them, at least the ones I've seen. And so I'm adding a little bit here too. Okay, now that the paint is dry, I do my ART and with my swirling circle around there and a few lines in copper and black. And now I'm going to go back in, now that this is dry, and go in with some of the metallics to make it shimmer. Okay, now for my other job workflow page, I'm going to keep that even more simple. I'll fill it in as I go and as we have team meetings. I just put the 3 things that I'm sure I will be working on, and then I'm going to add here, as you see, a simple green butterfly, and I'm going to add a washi tape butterfly. I have these washi tape butterflies and I'm kind of excited to use them in my journal. I'm normally not a sticker person, but in this case, it kind of goes. And I do like using washi tape. So I am trimming around this circle. Washi tape you can see through, so I could draw with it on a pencil and then cut around that so it looks like the circles are over the washi tape when they're actually not. Okay, some detailing with a complementary color, which is red, and of course the shimmer of gold. This little butterfly, for some reason, I think is my favorite of all, and I'm going to go over it with a little pen when I'm done too, just really simply showing that sometimes simple really is best. Okay, a little pathway drawn in pen and some more pen on the swallowtail, and I'm ready to move on to the weekly calendar pages. To make it easy and special, I'm cutting out some butterflies from my strip of butterfly washi tape and sticking them on here. The hardest part of that is getting the washi tape off of its backing, but once you've got that, it's totally easy. And now I'm drawing my lines, and I can draw up to the butterfly so the lines aren't showing underneath. It truly looks like the butterflies are flying on top of the boxes that I'm drawing. Now I'm trying different layouts each month, and I would be surprised if I liked any one more than last month, which was super easy. But this time I'm trying these boxes, and this way Saturday and Sunday each get their own designated spot, along with some extra note space here. You can see I'm using 1 week per side of the 2-page spread. Now I'm using a brush pen to do the shadow line, but you could always use a highlighter as well if you want something like this. And then going over with gold the organic bubbles, and I'm going to put some more butterflies here. This is a great way to dress up a page that you can use for any type of journaling. So this is March's setup, and here's a review. Reimagine a new start this month with the calendar page, the Dutch door, word or word of the year, word of the month page, and its interior that's in the Plan With Me Premium, the gratitude page, the workflow pages, and the weekly calendar pages. I've tried a variation of the layout on each page. I think I like this one the best. And then free journal pages following the calendar pages. I hope you've enjoyed this. Blessings to you as you create. Have a great month. Thank you for joining me for Plan With Me, March 2021. For more inspiration and information about e-courses, visit my website at ValerieShodine.com.